Hey everyone, it's Marcy here with Nina. Thank you so much for joining in. I have Robert Williams with me, who is an EA. And just to be honest here, he told me what it was, and I have a very bad short term memory. There's no way I'm going to remember all of what he told me. So, Robert, welcome. Tell the people what an EA is and what you do.
Thanks so much, Marcy. Again, my name is Robert Williams. I'm located here in Chicago, Cook County, Illinois. So, an enrolled agent, EA is an enrolled agent, which is like a CPA, but mainly exclusively for taxes. And instead of being licensed by state accounting boards like CPAs are, we're licensed by the federal government, by the Department of Treasury. So we have a federal license. So, although I'm located here in Chicago, if you have a case or need representation in New York, in New Jersey, in Connecticut, in Nevada, in Arizona, California. We could represent all over the country because the IRS is a federal department, and state departments of revenue and other departments of finance. They do recognize our expertise as well as our professionalism, and they do allow us the rights to represent taxpayers before them as well.
All right, so everyone's probably thinking, Texas, IRS, we're tired of talking about this. Tax day passed. It did pass. You are all correct. It passed. But it is the perfect time, I think, as well as Robert thinking, hey, let's talk about, okay, you're done. Hopefully you file your return, don't have an extension. But if not, for purposes of our conversation, let's say that you're done. Let's talk about what we do in the year going forward because it's a good time now. You've seen what your business should look like, right? You've seen your expenses, you've seen your financials, you know all of those things. You should start planning right away for the upcoming year. Am I right? Like there's no downtime here. Once year is over, we're moving on to the next. What would you say the first thing people should do in preparing for this new tax year?
For sure, for sure. And as a disclaimer, Marcy, I just want to say I have a newborn baby. So you may hear some baby sounds, okay? So no
We're
one's
so
getting hurt.
excited.
That
Little but
it's him
little.
over.
We hear the little guy. We love children or animals,
Yeah.
either one. I know you don't
Mhm.
hold up to the screen, but we're happy to hear him.
Yeah, for sure. So with that being said, we're already in the second quarter, right? We're coming up
Yep.
on the second quarter. And that's the prime opportunity to take a chance to look at your bookkeeping. Especially for business owners, whether it's you're the only employee or you've got 15, whether or not you are the sole notary public or apostille agent or small business owner, or you've got a team of folks working under you, you've got some form of agency, and you've got independent contractors, you need bookkeeping. Right. I believe everyone needs bookkeeping, especially when QuickBooks and Zero cost about $30 a month, right? Everyone needs bookkeeping so that they can actually track their income and their expenses and say, hey, I know what I made, but I also know what's going out. I know in a lot of small business rooms and spaces and areas, we talk about what's your profit, right? Your net income, meaning what's my gross income minus my expenses to make that income, and then what do I have left? And so that's how you determine, am I making money? Honestly, and I went to school and received a business management degree. That's one of the principal things they teach about business. Is it for profit? Are you turning a profit? If you made $100, but you spent 110, 115, 120, you did not make a profit. It might have felt good. You had a good day. It was fun. It was exciting. It made some nice people, but you did not make any money. You did not make a profit. You actually spent money.
Well,
So
and I think
bookkeeping
I'm going to cut you off for
is
1 minute here.
foremost.
I want to touch on that before we move forward because I think
Mhm.
you made a great point in that you need to know as you go what you're making, what you're bringing in, your income, and what your expenses are, right? It's not one of those things where you should wait till the end of the year and pull out your shoebox and be like, hey, here are all my receipts. How do you know how to pivot, right? How do you know, oh my gosh, I'm going to owe more in taxes. I should make a quarterly payment. Or, oh my goodness, my expenses are out of hand. I really need to, try to work things down. I want to make sure that I said that and that I asked you about that because I think that that's a critical part of being any sort of business owner, side gig, hustle, whatever you're doing, you need to be looking at that as you go along. Am I correct in saying that?
You are more, no, you're not correct. You are a million percent right about it. Like a
I love
million
that.
percent correct, right?
Okay.
Um, in business, again, the essence of business is the profit motive, right? Adam Smith wrote about this in 1776 with his seminal work, The Wealth of Nations, about how capital follows an invisible hand that pushes it along to its highest and best use to make more capital, right? So that's called what we call the profit motive. If you have the profit motive, you have to ascertain whether or not you have a profit or not. How do you know? I think the better time to do bookkeeping is monthly, depending on the revenue or amount of accounts and all of the things, employees or contractors, maybe weekly, but definitely monthly.
Okay.
Definitely monthly. In a generation or two or three ago, they used to call something called kitchen table economics. That's where, you have the homogenous family unit, mom, dad, 2.5 kids, and a dog, right? Mom and dad will sit at the kitchen table and figure out what's what today, right? How much money did we make this week? And how much are you bringing in on a paycheck? Okay, you made $1,000. Let's talk about the bills. We've got lights, we've got gas, we've got rent, we've got this, that, and the third. We've got shoes, and they've all got to get, something's got to get paid, and they would make these hard choices, right? um Sometimes it was $1,000 a week, sometimes it was $300 a week, and sometimes everything got paid, and sometimes something didn't get paid that week. But the principle of kitchen table economics is that you have to take a very realistic approach at your income and your expenses. What do we have coming in? What do we have going out? I've met a lot of folks throughout this life, and I've been in this business 20 years, Marcy, who have received letters from the IRS or their state departments of revenue, and they take that letter, and that letter is unopened, and they take that letter and throw it under something.
No, I
They
couldn't do it.
file it with the rest of them and put them behind something, over something, under something. And I guess psychologically, they're burying the problem in their mind, and they're also physically burying the problem in the real world. And those letters have a great importance because, as I like to say, I mean, we all know death and taxes, you can't avoid them, right? But more importantly, tax problems they don't get smaller. They only get bigger the longer you wait.
Right.
Oftentimes, it's something relatively simple, but very straightforward that we all could address. I routinely owe the IRS in the state of Illinois money, but they're usually not very straightforward things that we could address and get a handle on. And do not, it's scary. I sometimes forget because I've been in this for so long, right? It's my actual business. Um, but I understand it's scary, and the thought of the unknown is scary. But I have to implore everyone: hire a professional, talk to someone, not necessarily just myself, but have someone seriously hold your hand to walk you through this scary time and let you know it's going to be okay. It really will.
Well, I think that's a important piece. And I know I have a very good CPA. I like to always say I went through several before I found this last one because I'll be honest and say, it's just like vetting anything else. I think the first one I had, I didn't think they really got what I did for a business. So I was always explaining myself. I didn't think that they really understood the gist of what I was doing. The second one, I'll be honest, I didn't feel like was reputable. They were doing some things that, admittedly they were sort of like, well, kind of walks the line. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not walking the line with my taxes. I don't feel good about that.
Yeah.
The one I have now is amazing. I love her, but here's the thing. Everyone's like, oh, but they're so expensive. Yes, she's not cheap. But she is incredible and amazing. And we talk consistently throughout the year. We have quarterly phone calls where we go through my financials. And she says to me, you know what, Marcy, you need to adjust here, right? Like you have too much in this spot, or we need to put more to your retirement, or your expenses look a little out of line. Like, can you explain to me what's going on so that I know like what we need to do going forward? I think the value of that really is having an individual who has your back and who knows more about that than you do. So then, should there be an issue down the road, you get audited or you get a letter, that's what that person is there for. I don't believe in the spreadsheet version of keeping expenses and things. And I know people do. In the very beginning, I probably did. But I'm going to say if you really are an entrepreneur or a business owner, you need a professional for your financial picture. Would you agree with that?
Yes. 1,000,000%. I mean, at some point, Marcia, you got to say something I disagree with. But no, I
Not gonna.
emphatically, I emphatically agree with it. That's called tax planning. Called tax planning. That's called thinking ahead. That's called having a strategy, whether or not you have an upcoming birth or unfortunately people pass away, you come into an inheritance, or you're planning for yourself, estate planning. We found um, palliative language in our society for things that we don't necessarily like to confront head on, but the resources are still there.
Yeah.
Having the opportunity to take a full picture approach to your financial life, right? I think we have, and this is maybe personal, but I think we have multiple lives in our life, right? You have a life as a mother, as I'm sorry, as a parent, as a sibling, as a child, as an aunt, as an uncle, as a business owner, as a villain in somebody's story sometimes, as a savior in others, and you've got your own life to who you are to you. I think we have to be more circumspect and realize we also have a spiritual life if one has that belief set, right? We also have a financial life, right? And we also have the opportunity to plan to as best as we can for after our lives have transitioned, right? Um, that's called estate planning, right? Um, the using the tools that work, trust and wills and things of that nature. Those are life insurance, annuities, and things of that nature. These are all viable tools, and we have to have a more honest approach in conversation with ourselves about this parts of our lives, especially during this administration, whatever one's beliefs, for good or for bad. The tools are there to use, and these tools most of the time supersede presidential administrations, gubernatorial administrations, mayoral administrations. These things exist well beyond whomever that individual is or is not. But
It's
we have
not
to take
political,
it
right?
is
These are not,
very apolitical.
yeah, we're really not talking about political issues in
Hmm.
terms of I want to make sure that my business is flowing appropriately. I want to make sure that I can retire someday, or I buy
Hmm.
a house next year, or I want to
Yeah.
take a yearly vacation, or buy a new car, or all of these things can be done
Yeah.
hand in hand with your tax planner and your
Yeah.
financial advisor, right? My CPA and my
That's it
financial
right there.
advisor work together. So at the end of the year, they all get together and we look at it and they're like, okay, this is how much more you need to transfer or move this year. This is what we think we should do. And I'll be honest and say, I like to be truthful about this. This was something that I came into later when I started my business. It was not like the onset of my entrepreneurship because back then I was so busy just trying to be in a business, right? Trying to make
Hmm.
some money. I will say I'm regretful of that. I wish I had started day one on the journey of my entrepreneurship with all of these tools in place. I feel like I would have been farther ahead, but I also feel like I would have been more financially literate. And I people laugh when I say this, but I really didn't understand how financials worked until I took an entrepreneur class with Goldman Sachs. And they had all this whole module. They went through your financials and how the reports worked and how the money broke down. And I have to say, it was incredibly boring, but absolutely life changing and eye opening. I was like, wow, I didn't know all of these things. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Would you agree that most small business owners really don't have financial fluency?
Most small business owners, average Joe Schmo, doesn't, right? Are you talking? And I just want to ask a question for clarity. Are you talking about the Goldman Sachs? I think it was 10,000 women program that they
Yeah,
had.
10,000 small business program.
Hmm.
Have you been
It
through
was
that?
amazing. I'm sorry.
Loved it. Right? Did you love it?
Yeah, so I knew some of the facilitators at Goldman, and it's a really great program.
Great
With that
program.
being said, I like how you looped everyone in together, right? I'm going to throw in a curveball also eventually, at least annually, loop your attorney in, right?
Yeah.
For financial planning and estate planning thing. These things all go together. Tax planning, financial planning, as well as estate planning. And I just want to say this that this is where I might slightly disagree with you. I don't
All right.
I don't I think that an emerging or starting business person should have proof of concept. You should show that you can actually make money. Show that your idea or whatever you're doing works, right? And not get started in business selling widgets and gadgets and thinking about, how you're going to fund a step or simple plan. I don't think that's the initial goal. However, I do think that oftentimes, more times than not, entrepreneurs wait way later in the game
Sure.
to start paying attention to these things. So I don't think day one, maybe not even year one specifically, right? But around somewhere in year two, sure, because year one has shown you what it can look like, right? What the start can look like, and whether this thing blows up or whether it plateaus or not, at least I got started. I started funding a SEP. I started funding a simple. I started putting away for taxes and having a tax savings account. I started, planning for health insurance. Again, whether this blows up or whether it plateaus and it doesn't. And so these are really bedrock principles, as you mentioned, with the entrepreneurship one-on-one class for small and medium-sized business. Well, for small business owners to become medium-sized business owners. So it's definitely key. Again, uh, not everyone has access to a gold standard, uh, tongue in cheek with Goldman, a gold standard entrepreneurship class. But the tools and resources are there. As you mentioned, finding someone where there is a symbiosis is key as well, and continue to build from there.
Well, there are lots of, so I'm going to go back for a minute. I hear you're slightly disagreeing, and I'm not, I hear exactly what you're saying, and I'm with you on that. I think it's important. I tell people this when they are in the groups and they say, should I be an LLC? Should I be a corporation? Everyone's situation is so personal and specific. There isn't a good general answer to some of these questions. You need to talk to someone. And so I think that for me is the most important thing. Your situation might be different than my situation. So it's important to keep all that in mind as you're deciding, when do I need someone? Am I, single and I do all the things on my own? Do I have a spouse who can help me? The cool thing about Goldman Sachs or any of these programs, really, NASDAQ has a milestones program, Cornell has a program. Like these are free programs for small business owners and entrepreneurs. And you can go to SCORE, right? Your local SBA office. There are so many free resources out there compared to the past. I feel like there isn't a good reason not to educate yourself anymore. You have all that ability. I see a little baby.
Yeah, there's a little guy,
He's so cute. What's your name, little buddy?
Elijah.
Elijah, welcome to the fireside chat. We're so happy to have you. Like I said
Thank you.
before, it's never too early. It's never too early to start.
No, it's
But
never
would
too
you
early.
never? But don't you think that's true? Like there are so many more free resources out there than they were in years past when it comes to business owners, entrepreneurship, self-employment. Like there really is. Not that I'm saying go out there and do it on your own, but I am saying you can certainly start that path of education on your own before you go and find someone else. No.
For sure, for sure. Um, the rappers turned businessman Master P. He got started with his record label in, I want to say, 98, 99. And his story is that unfortunately his grandfather passed away due to medical negligence. He took his share of the inheritance and started a record shop. And the record shop did pretty well. And he wondered, how do you do business? How do you do better business? How do you do better business? And he ended up paying Michael Jackson's attorney 25 grand to direct him in business. And that's the part I want to focus on. In that time frame, he had no clue how to find this information. Trapped in LA or New Orleans, he had no access to this information. He had to pay an attorney 25 grand to say, hey, how do I set up business? How do I set up a music business to show me? And I'm not delving too deep into it, but there are four different revenue streams initially with musicians. There's masters, there's publishing rights, there's sync rights, there's performance rights as well. But he had to pay 25 grand for something I learned out of a $25 book that was written by ostensibly one of those attorneys. The access to information in this day and age is phenomenal, phenomenal. Whether or not that's hiring a white shoe law firm or financial firm who has free programs, right? Kravis Swain and Kirkland Ellis and PwC and all of these professional firms, they actually do pro bono work and have things like that. You don't have to go pay them 25 grand per se necessarily, but there is access to reputable information. And again, we live in a time frame now where, as opposed to 30 years ago, where you had to pay an astronomical amount to get quality information. The problem is now so much information is out there. You don't know what's real or what's right, what's quality or what's not quality.
And
But
I agree with you on that.
I would
100%.
argue there are still reputable institutions that have this information, right? There are a number of I'm just thinking right now off the top of my head, investing, right? There are a number of world-renowned investors who've been in the investing business 40 years or more, who teach at Columbia University, who teach at Harvard, who teach at Yale and some other Ivy League and sub-Ivy League places who you can look at their CV and they've literally worked on Wall Street for 40 years. But for the life of me, people want to believe the guy who just learned about quote unquote trading 6 months ago. And and everything the other guys talked about is online on YouTube, numerous interviews. You literally can pick up the phone and call them or email them and they actually talk to you. I've done it. So with that being said, there's a lot of great information. You've just dropped a lot of gems. SCORE, which is by the SBA. There are local institutions, local chambers of commerce, whether or not you're in Abilene, Texas, or Los Angeles, California, or Chicago, or New York City, New York. There are lots of great institutions out there where you can get access to the information and to these professionals. You don't have to go to Ernst and Young to pay them $4,000 to do a personal tax return, unless you just want to. To say I'm Marcy and I have my taxes prepared by Ernst and Young. You could get the exact same quality tax preparation services, tax planning services from a local boutique CPA or enrolled agent. You can get the same for at least half of the cost, depending on the nature of what you have going on. And there are some bedrock, again, foundational business principles that we have to learn, right? How to handle yourself and no, you don't have to pay for this and you do have to pay for that. And it's okay to hire professionals that give you quality information, that give you access, the opportunity to research it. Like you mentioned before, you had a CPA who would tell you, oh, this is really walking the line. And you felt uncomfortable with an aggressive CPA, right? I can think offhand of three individuals right now who are in the real estate business who are looking for aggressive accountants, and I'm not
And
one of them.
listen, I like to go on record saying, hey, you do you, right? Like if that's your thing, and so I always tell the story. I have a friend who owned a business for many years, and she always brought her bottom line was always a zero. I don't pay taxes. I don't want to show a profit. I always want to be at zero. And I'm like, what? I couldn't understand that. But at the end of the day, I said to her, that's between you, your accountant. Like if you all feel good about that, that's on you. So I do want to make sure everyone out there knows, listen, I'm not judging you. However you want to go about that is fine. I just I am conservative when it comes to my financials. I always have been. I always felt like if I get that letter in the mail, I want to feel comfortable by saying, hey, here are my books. Go ahead and take a look. I have nothing to hide, right? But I know not everyone operates in that space. So I do want to make sure, I hope I didn't offend anyone out there. If that's you, you do you. I have to do me on this side. That's just how it works.
And
But I
I
think you
just want
bring
to
up,
interrupt very briefly.
yeah,
I totally second that, right? Even as a credentialed professional, my responsibility is to let one know what the rules are, right?
right.
It's your responsibility to determine if you will or won't follow those rules. And hey, there's no judgment on my end. It's very I'm very agnostic and apolitical about it. We just have to figure out if that works for both of us. And if there is no middle ground, that's perfectly fine. There are millions of other tax professionals out there,
Mhm.
credentialed and otherwise. So, this is and for anyone that reads this or he sees this, again, I this is not me passing judgment. It's not an indictment. I don't work for the IRS to turn you in or anything like that. That's between you, honestly, your professional whom you've hired, and and your taxing body. That's it. That's all.
And I think
I'm
that's
not. I'm in no
important.
place to pass judgment.
No, and I think that's, you brought that up, and that's a good next point, is that those individuals are not there to judge you. They're there to assist you or help you and to provide you information. What you do with that information, just like anything else in business, is really up to you. So I do always tell
For
people,
sure.
sometimes having a professional is just, they know better than you all the ins and outs. If I knew all the things, then I would be a CPA. That's not why right? It's not my job. Um,
For sure. For sure.
so I think that if you had to give someone one bit of advice, right? It's like self-employed, side gig, side hustle, whatever your thing is, like starting out in this new tax year, what is the one thing that's most important to get started with?
Again, bookkeeping. Because if you don't have books, you don't know what you do or don't have. I'm so serious. You can't accurately report things, right? If you're driving Uber and Lyft and they send you a 1099 at the end of the year, you made 40 grand, you're gonna guess what your expenses are because you didn't keep a track of them. You didn't keep track of your miles, so we can't accurately take the mileage deductions. You didn't keep track of your actual expenses, so we don't know what your actual expenses were, and we're taking a big guess. And if you were audited, examined, and the IRS said, substantiate this, prove it to me, you can't prove it because you took a guess. So the number one thing I would say is, again, bookkeeping, QuickBooks or Zero or FreshBooks. There are 1,000 other things out there. If you can't for whatever reason afford the $30 a month, right? Reach out to me. I do have, and this is a shameless plug. No offense,
No
but we
offense.
do offer as a partner with them. We can get you a discount, at least 30 up to 30%, or very simple, very honestly, you can always start with a notebook, something to keep
Spreadsheet,
track of your
Excel.
income. And I say Excel because that's my world, but some folks it's not. But even just a composition notebook, right? I made $740 today. These were my expenses today as well. But you have to have books, and it touches on a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But bookkeeping, that's the first.
I don't love the Excel spreadsheet notebook world. I always feel like, hey, if you're going to be a business owner, like you can deduct that expense for your accounting software. Like, just it's so helpful because it's helpful in that I think a lot of business owners don't really know what they should be tracking. Right? That's another thing. Like, how do I know as a business owner what I should be paying attention to? Is it just mileage? Do I track how my car payment, gas that I, do, all of the pens and the paper, and do I track my phone bill or my internet? I know that sounds silly, and maybe to someone out there, you're like, Marcy, everybody knows that. They don't, though. I didn't know that when I first started, right? I didn't know all the things. How can I know? I never owned a business before. That's a critical part too of talking to a professional, right? Is they're finding out, okay, let's talk about what your business is. Are you tracking all of these other things as well?
So that's my number two. You asked my number one, and my number two is this. And it sounds slightly self-promotional, but I promise you, I'm gonna explain why. The second step will be to hire a professional, whether or not it's a CPA, and everyone always says CPA because they're the widely known thing, right? But there are other private accountants. I'm a private accountant. I'm a tax accountant. But you want to hire an accountant, right? Whether or not that's a tax preparer that's really knowledgeable, or a bookkeeper that's really knowledgeable, or you have to piece them together because I've got a bookkeeper and a tax guy and all of the things. But the next step is to hire a professional. The saddest, it's not sad. One of the things that I encounter a lot is a business person who doesn't know. Robert, what do I give you? What do I don't know what to give you. And I have to say, well, give me everything. But then I also have to disclose, well, I'm gonna have to charge you based on this rate, right? And maybe I'm gonna circle back to this, but I'll say it for now. You want to find a finance professional accountant that gives you fair and simple pricing. Now, by fair, I don't mean a price that you like, because everybody likes zero. I mean fair in the sense that you feel like you're getting good value for money. Hey, I'm
Sure.
preparing your taxes and it costs you $1,700, and it's just you and God. You're like, well, I don't think that's fair, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
what feels fair to you? But simple and transparent pricing. I know that my accounting charges 175, 250 an hour, and it's a 2 hour minimum per month, or he's got me on some package where I'm on his gold package and it's $1,700 every quarter, right? Bench Accounting, which went bankrupt and then got bought by Employer.com, they have a pretty good business model and they make tens of millions a year doing it. How they went bankrupt is a different story for a different day. But they have a very simple tiered product service, right? So you want to make sure your professional is giving you clear and transparent pricing. But the second step is to hire a professional. Again, some of the business owners I've had to tell them, just give me everything. And I'll figure it out. And then I educate them, right? Whether or not that's a Zoom link with a video, or I like Loom, which are short videos,
Mhm.
and just educating them. I prefer written things. You could, hopefully get on a newsletter, but something to educate you. Like, hey, listen, going forward, these are the expenses which you can deduct, right? So these are stuff that I'm going to need, right? But if the business is giving donations, some of that's not a tax deduction for the business, but we could report it on your personal tax. Yeah, I know that's not so good, is it? That's not so good. Um, but to educate and say, hey, this is what you need going forward, right? Hey, stop coming to me with receipts. Let me show you an app where you could take pictures of those receipts and upload them, and then we could do the reconcil. It's called reconciliation or classification, right? Um, like in QuickBooks or Zero, a business owner would snap photos, right? And I've got truckers. I say, hey, listen, if you're going to be committed to the digital thing, that's great. And we can work that. But that means you have to be committed. So when you do a shower, you go on a scale, you buy gas or diesel or fuel or whatever it is, you have to commit to getting in the truck and snapping these photos and snap them and upload them to QuickBooks. You just open it and it says scan and you click and you hit again. These are guys that are truckers, right? And so you got to explain. And if you're committed to that, let's do that. If you're not, I need you to make sure you make a trip to me at least once a month and drop these off. And I'll start getting it going, right? Because here's the secret. No accountant likes to see a bag of or a box of receipts. And it sounds so funny, but it truly is a headache. And number two, the taxpayer doesn't not they might not quite know it, but you will be charged adequately for that because there's
Sure.
so many other alternatives around, right? And more times than not, we tell you them. But the second step, again, circling back, is to hire a professional to explain these things, to give you this information, to ask them what their background is, how long they've been in business, what are their processes, right? Most of the CPA firms I contract with, if they do not have adequate books, March 31st, you're going on extension. Period, point blank. They will give you a preliminary figure of what your tax liability is and say, hey, you need to pay this, but you're going on extension. If and people will run in on the 14th or hey, can you do this? No, I cannot. I've got 333 other individuals. I have no time. And there's probably not an amount of money you could pay me to do it. So, no. Um, Hire a professional, ask them questions, get to know them. As you mentioned before, Marcy, so eloquently, see if you guys are fit.
Mhm.
See if you guys are fit and make sure you're fit based on experience. Make sure you're a fit based on personality and what your needs are. And for those that don't know what you need, hopefully, they can explain to you some of the things you need. And you could take an opportunity to ask questions. It's like a job interview. Always have a question to ask. I don't care if the question is how much do you charge? Always have a question to ask. Um, and as you can see here, more times than not, you get us to start talking, we tend to keep going. So it works out that way.
It's good. I think that this is a good first step, right? Start your bookkeeping. Start plugging stuff in once a month, right? Start with that and start talking to a professional if you have it. Or if you do, make the effort. As some people, don't wait till the end of the year, right? Talk to them throughout the year. Have a touch base quarterly or whatever it might be to see, hey, am I doing all the right things? Is there something else I need to address? Is there something else that I need to do? Can I, Robert, put your information in the comments in my recording so that if someone out there wants to talk to a professional, they can reach out to you.
For sure, for sure. And I just want to circle back. One of the best questions to ask, one of the best questions to ask, are you open year round? That's a great question. It doesn't seem like it at first, but I promise you it is. Hey, are you open year round? Are you here year round? Right? Because again, some of the contract firms I've worked at, they're not. They're like, hey, I'm there, by appointment only, which ironically they never happen to have an appointment, right? Um,
Never, you know.
they never have an appointment. I'm here by appointment only. I'm only Monday, Wednesday, Friday, only Thursdays, whatever. But you want to ask, are you? Some of us work year round. I'm
Mm.
in a number of tax groups and talk to other tax professionals, and they're like, well, what do you do after tax season? Taxes. I do quarterly taxes, sales and use tax, other small local state taxes. I represent taxpayers all year round. Um, Taxes, bookkeeping, payroll. I also do business formation and entity formation, entity compliance. So a number of other types of things of that nature. But yeah, I'm available year round. And that's a really big important thing, like you mentioned, when things come up, right? You contract with a company and you're getting a lot of work and you make $13,000 this month, right? But you've got all these expenses too. Again, do I take this? Do I not take this? I ate on the road while going to an appointment. What do I do with that McDonald's receipt, right?
Yep.
The person took me out. Is that a gift? Do I have to report that? I took another person out. Is that a gift? Do I have to report that? All of these different kinds of things. And this happens in June. Who do you talk to? Is your
Mhm.
professional available? All of those different types of things. So
Especially
asking
if
them,
you're adding on like another service, right? Or branching
for
out in
sure.
another way. I mean, that's been critical for my team is, hey, I'm going to do this going forward. What do I need to know about this? What should I be watching
Mhm.
out for? Are there any pitfalls? What, tell me. So those are important things to know too, is that, it's not just like the end of the year. If you are going to branch out in any way, as most entrepreneurs do, we don't always stay that straight road, but if we do a bunch of different stuff, it's certainly helpful too. What I would
Yeah.
love to do is make this, I know I'm going to put you on the spot. I would love to make this like a little series. Like we gave a lot of information today. I would love to touch base in a month or two and talk about next steps, like more meatier kinds of topics, right? Okay, we talked about doing a little bit of bookkeeping and hiring a professional. Let's talk about what the next piece of this would be, right? Like maybe we talk about what kind of questions you should be asking or what you should be looking at as we're looking at financials. Is that something that you might be open
That is on the spot.
to?
But you sure. For you,
I know.
Marcy, sure.
I totally on the spot. I know he's like, now why would you do that? Because I feel like Elijah would really love to be more involved in the fireside chat piece. So
At some
I'm
point,
gonna,
he's going to be answering these questions
yeah,
himself.
so I'm gonna make him be this baby too. I'm not gonna hold you to that, but I would love to talk to you again sometime in the future to see if we can't add in a few more bits here. I think it's super important. I so appreciate your time today. Thank you so much. What a great conversation. And I'm gonna go read that book from 1776 now that you just talked about because I'm super
Adam
fascinated. I
Smith,
would love to hear this. Yeah.
Adam Smith's Wealth of Nation. It's an old book. It's obviously right. There's been recent developments in economics that validate some things and doesn't validate some things. But one of the great benefits of, I guess, time is that you get to wait and see if it works.
Sure.
And so again, some of these things are timeless. The profit motive or someone's incentives is timeless. One of my idols, my mentor, he passed away. His name was Charlie Munger. He would say, "You show me somebody's incentives, and I'll tell you exactly what they'll do."
Sorry that he
So yeah,
passed away, but
no, you're fine.
but
Yeah,
having a mentor is, crucial. That's another conversation for another day. I
hoorah.
appreciate you both so much. Thank you for coming on and giving us this wealth of information. It's been uh, wonderful. We agreed on 99.9% of things, which might be a record for me. So I sort of love that too. Uh,
Hoorah.
I appreciate you. Thank you for coming on. Everyone out there, Robert's information is down below. I highly recommend that you reach out to him. You know, even if he can't help you, I have a feeling he's the kind of guy who can give you a good referral for someone who
Yep.
might be able to do so. So please reach out. Please don't be shy. Please, please, please do a better job on your business this year than you did last year. That's my goal every year too. So I hope you all have a great day. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks.